All right, so welcome back. So last time we talked about just kind of an overview of the app. We talked a lot. I apologize for that. But we kind of looked at the different classes and kind of the roles of each one in the solution. Now we're going to concern ourselves with the starting point. So I don't want to write the whole app, but I do want to, I would like to write the whole app if it didn't take forever. But I want to actually start from something. So I've handpicked some things to remove so that I can show you some things that were important that you're going to have to worry about. So the first thing that I thought I'd have us do together is have us make modifications to play.html. If you open this now, so if you say open with system editor, it should open up and look initially, kind of similar. You'll notice that the values are all ones and the shadows are a little bit off on them. So it looks, similar to this page. But of course, at the starting point, nothing clicks, right? So you can click to your heart's content. Nothing does anything, not even new game. So this is kind of our starting point that we're going to be making additions to. If you look at where we're going to be writing code, if you go look at game controller, you can see it's just empty. If you look at round controller, you'll find that there's going to be a couple to-dos that we'll write in here. And then if you look at main, you can see it's got a couple to-dos in here as well. So we're essentially going to be making additions to 4 different files. The files that you noticed that we're not touching are the 2 model objects. So the die and the dice round, those are done, right? So you don't have to touch the model. Model's done. We're going to be making additions to just the controllers and the high-level stuff that use the models. So let's go start making some changes to these guys. So the first thing we need to actually make a couple changes to is our HTML file. And I chose to leave out the imports of the scripts. So you can copy them from above and put them in. They're also available in the notes if you happen to have the notes up. But what I did is I chose to intentionally leave them out just to show you that if you choose to use classes without any sort of special compiler and you choose to put them into a separate file, you have this slight negative of the files are all separate. This is actually slow for a browser because it has to download this one and then download this one and then download this one. Maybe someday we'll talk about using things like pre-pros or things that, uglify your code to minify it and put it into a single file. That's not the focus for now. So just notice that for now, we actually are individually including each file separately, which to be honest is not as efficient, but for the things we're doing, it's going to be fairly fast to load 6 files compared to 1. I'll also mention that the order can be important. So for example, main is what defines our namespace. So it defines the RH variable. So it actually has to be first because it defines the RH variable. And then the others I chose to put in like dependency order. So die knows about nothing. Dice round makes use of a die. Dice round controller makes use of a dice round. Game controller makes use of a dice round controller. So I had to do this one first to define the namespace, and then the others are kind of in dependency order. So there I've added the files. Really, adding the files won't change the output much. You could reload it now, and if you do that, it won't look any different. Like clicking still doesn't do anything, even with the JavaScript files. Your console log should be error-free, so if you wanted to check that out, you could. But we've now added the files to where we can add things in there. So everything starts with the main function, right? So the main function is what creates your first instance. I've also chosen to put the new game button in here. So we're going to write things in main first. The first thing we're going to do together is we're going to write the new game button. So the new game button, if you go look at it, you can dive into your HTML and you can say this new game button has an ID of new game button on it. So I wanted to use that to my advantage. So I'm just going to say, hey, jQuery, look for the ID new game button. And I'm going to listen for the click event. So these are things we've done before. And then what I want to do inside of here is actually kind of funny. I just want to do a page load. You can look up how to do these things like a reload, but it's window.location.reload. So if you save that up and then you go open up your app again, now if I refresh up here, that refresh the page, I can actually hit new game, and you can see that actually has the same effect as the page load, right? So as soon as if we're in the middle of something, clicking on new game will give us a new game, and the way it will do it is it'll actually reload the page. So really this button and this button are the same button. So that's exactly what we wanted in this situation. So that worked great. Next thing we wanted to do is we would like to create a instance of our first class. So what we want to do is we want to create an instance. We're going to say new, and so we're going to create a Dice with Friends game controller. You could save off the variable if you wanted, but really just creating a new one is gonna do all the things that we want. And so you could go ahead and reload the page here. So if you reload the page here, it looks the same. If you open up your console log, though, we've got a problem, and it says undefined is not a function, and it's saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. What is this? So if you click on the error, what is this Dice game controller? So if you go open that file, you might remember it's empty, right? So we were going to have to write that from its entirety. So we are going to eventually write that as our line of code. But for initial testing, what we're going to actually do is we're going to skip over the game controller, and we're just going to go straight to making a round controller. And so this is temporary. So I'll just write temporary testing next to it. And so with a round controller, it won't affect the top scores, like the score in the round won't do anything. But there are some things done already on the buttons. So now let's go reload our page. And so now what should happen, assuming you've got some ones and fives, you should be able to click on the ones and fives, and they should be able to go up because our round controller is in place. Our round controller is not complete yet. So if you hit roll again, nothing happens. If you hit stop, nothing happens. We're going to implement those later. But you can at least click on the dice themselves and watch the score change. Note, it is possible that you might not have any ones and fives, and if that happens, just hit refresh, and just go until you've got at least one die that you can click on. All right, so that's actually where we're going to cut this video off. We've got the main function done in a temporary way. Eventually, we're going to load in the Dice game controller, but not until we've written it. So we're actually going to consider this video done. We've got main going. We'll come back next time and we'll implement some of those buttons.